My name is Aura Stevens, and I'm 36 years old. For 12 years, I drove long-haul trucks across the country. Most people hear that and imagine loneliness, gas stations at midnight, motel coffee, and empty highways that stretch so far they start to feel unreal. But for me, the road was honest. The road didn't pretend. It didn't smile at me over dinner while secretly planning a life without me. Before Ethan Collins moved into my house, I already owned it. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, built in the 90s. Nothing fancy, but every payment had my name on it. I bought it before our relationship became serious, before he started calling it our place, before his sister taught him to look at my stability like it was a cage. Ethan and I had been together 10 years. 7 of those years, we lived under the same roof. Back then, I thought we worked. He had his insurance office job. I had my roots. I handled repairs, yard work, the heavy lifting. He cooked when I came home tired, kept the place decent, made it feel like someone was waiting for me. It wasn't glamorous, but it was solid. And I used to believe solid was enough. Then his older sister, Rebecca, moved back to town after another failed relationship. Rebecca had that dangerous kind of confidence people get when they mistake chaos for wisdom. She posted quotes about freedom and healing while burning through friendships, men, apartments, and money. Suddenly, she was always at our kitchen table, drinking my coffee, filling Ethan's head with stories about passion, adventure, and how life was too short to be trapped. At first, I ignored it. Then Ethan started changing. He complained about our routine. He rolled his eyes when I talked about retirement, savings, or fixing the back fence. He started saying things like, "You wouldn't understand, Aura. You're always on the road." The job he looked down on was the same job paying the mortgage. Then, 3 months before everything exploded, Ethan quit his job without even discussing it with me. "I need to find myself," he said one night while I was still in my work boots, too exhausted to argue. I looked at him across the kitchen table. "And how exactly are you planning to do that? Another job? School?" He sighed like I was embarrassing him. "I need time to explore." Explore. That was the word he kept using. While I drove 60-hour weeks, Ethan explored sleeping late, brunch with Rebecca, shopping, scrolling social media, and leaving the house looking like a storm had passed through it. Dishes piled up, laundry sat untouched, trash overflowed. And when I asked him to help, he said, "Housework is restrictive to my growth." I stopped asking. I cooked for myself, cleaned by myself, paid the bills by myself, and slowly, quietly, I began checking out of the relationship before I even admitted it to myself. Then, one evening, after I came home from a 3-day haul, Ethan asked me to sit in the living room. He had a glass in his hand, and that nervous, rehearsed look people get when they already know they're about to hurt you. "Aura," he said, "I've been thinking about us." My stomach tightened. "Okay." "I think we need to open the relationship." For a second, the room went silent in a way I'll never forget. "You want what?" "I want us to explore other people," he said, suddenly brighter. "Other women, other connections, real experiences. It could help us grow." Grow. There it was again. I stared at him, trying to find the man I used to love inside his face. "So you want permission to sleep with someone else?" "That's not fair." "It's accurate." He leaned forward. "It wouldn't be cheating if we agreed." And that was when something inside me went cold. Because Ethan wasn't asking. He had already chosen someone. I could hear it in his voice, see it in the way he avoided my eyes. We argued for almost an hour. He talked about freedom, modern relationships, emotional expansion. I talked about loyalty, respect, and the fact that vows still meant something even if we weren't legally married. Finally, I stopped. I looked at him and said, "Okay." He blinked. "Okay? If that's what you want, then okay." Relief spread across his face so quickly it almost made me sick. He thought he had won. But that night, while he slept beside me with his phone glowing under the blanket, I stared at the ceiling and made a decision. I opened a private bank account. I scheduled a meeting with an attorney. I started documenting every conversation, every expense, every broken promise. If Ethan wanted freedom, I was going to give it to him. And then I was going to make sure he understood exactly what freedom cost. Ethan wasted no time. The very next evening, while I was preparing for another 3-day route, he was getting dressed for what he casually called a fitness social. I already knew what that meant. He'd been talking about a yoga instructor named Lena for weeks before he ever brought up an open relationship. She wasn't a coincidence. She was the reason. "I'm heading out," he said, adjusting his jacket in the hallway. "Have fun," I replied, without looking up from my phone. He frowned. "That's it?" I finally glanced at him. "What else would you like me to say?" "I don't know, something." I smiled politely. "I hope you have a nice evening." He left looking strangely disappointed. That became our routine. He'd spend nights with Lena or women he'd met through friends, while I answered every message with the same calm response. "Okay. Drive safe. See you tomorrow." The less jealous I appeared, the more unsettled he became. He wanted guilt. He wanted begging. He wanted dramatic fights that proved I still revolved around him. Instead, I started revolving around myself. During long routes, I listened to audiobooks about investing and personal finance instead of relationship podcasts. I met with an attorney during one of my layovers and quietly followed every piece of advice she gave me. "Document everything," she said. "Don't threaten him. Don't argue. Let him create the evidence himself." So I did. I opened another bank account at a different bank and slowly transferred money I'd earned into it. Nothing illegal, nothing hidden, just protecting myself. I saved screenshots, bank statements, text messages, receipts. Every unnecessary purchase Ethan made with our shared money, while contributing nothing to the household, found its way into a password-protected folder. Then I changed something else. My body. 5 mornings a week, I found a gym wherever my routes took me. Heavy lifts, cardio, better food, less junk. Within 2 months, I'd lost nearly 15 pounds. My shoulders looked stronger, and coworkers I'd known for years barely recognized me. "You look different," one dispatcher told me. "I finally started sleeping better," I lied. The truth was much simpler. I had stopped carrying someone else's future on my back. About 2 months into Ethan's grand adventure, something happened that neither of us expected. Our neighbor, Ryan Carter, wandered over while I was changing the oil in my truck one Saturday afternoon. Ryan was 35, divorced, no kids, and worked as an architect. We'd chatted across fences for years, always about harmless things: weather, football, neighborhood gossip, home repairs. Ethan had always joked that Ryan was too charming, though I'd never encouraged anything beyond friendly conversation. "Hey, Aura," Ryan said with an easy smile. "Long time." "Been working." "I heard," he hesitated. "People around here talk." I laughed quietly. "They always do." "So, you and Ethan really have an arrangement now?" I shrugged. "So it would seem." He studied me for a second before smiling. "If you ever want to grab coffee when you're actually in town, let me know." Before I could answer, Ethan's car pulled into the driveway. The color drained from his face the second he saw Ryan standing beside me. He climbed out much faster than usual. "Ryan." "Hey, Ethan." What are you doing? Ryan grinned. Talking. Nothing more, nothing less. Yet Ethan practically stormed across the yard. Can I talk to you inside? He asked me through clenched teeth. The moment the front door closed behind us, he exploded. What the hell was that? What was what? You know exactly what. We were talking. He was flirting with you. I folded my arms. And? You can't seriously be considering Ryan. I blinked. I thought we had an open relationship. That's different. There it is. His jaw tightened. Ryan lives 2 houses away. So? We'll have to see him. I thought this was about freedom. It is. Apparently only yours. He paced across the kitchen. You don't understand. No, I said calmly. Help me. It's Ryan. And? He's always liked you. The silence between us almost made me smile. So that's the problem. No. Yes. He rubbed his forehead. If something happened with Ryan, it wouldn't just be physical. Lena isn't physical? That's different. I almost laughed. So sleeping with strangers is healthy? Yes. But someone who genuinely respects me is somehow crossing the line? You know that's not what I mean. It's exactly what you mean. His carefully built philosophy suddenly had exceptions. Ryan was off limits because Ethan couldn't control him. For the first time since proposing the arrangement, Ethan looked genuinely afraid. The argument lasted nearly 3 hours. First, Ryan was unacceptable because he was a neighbor. Then, because he'd secretly liked me. Then, because emotional attachments violated the spirit of an open relationship. Each explanation contradicted the last. Eventually, I simply walked into the garage and spent the rest of the afternoon working on my classic truck. Grease was easier to deal with than hypocrisy. Over the following weeks, Ethan became increasingly paranoid. He started coming home unexpectedly. He glanced at my phone whenever it buzzed. One night, I woke up to find him trying my passcode while pretending he was checking the time. Another afternoon, he casually asked why I'd created a new email address. I smiled. Work. He didn't believe me. Projection is funny that way. People who constantly hide things assume everyone else must be hiding something too. Meanwhile, Rebecca decided to interfere. She let herself into my house one Tuesday while Ethan was out. We need to talk, she announced. I don't remember inviting you. She ignored that. You're hurting Ethan. I actually laughed. I'm hurting Ethan? Ryan. What about him? You know exactly what you're doing. I attended one neighborhood conversation. You encouraged him. I answered a question. Rebecca sighed dramatically. Ethan wanted this to help your relationship. By sleeping with other women? You're twisting everything. No, I said quietly. I'm just repeating it. She left angry. I watched her drive away, realizing something that had been growing in the back of my mind for weeks. Neither Rebecca nor Ethan cared about fairness. They cared about control. And they were beginning to realize they were losing it. While Ethan obsessed over Ryan, I quietly installed security cameras in the common areas of my house. Perfectly legal, perfectly documented. I never mentioned them. Within days, they captured something far more valuable than I expected. Late one evening, while I was supposedly halfway across the state, Ethan and Rebecca sat at my kitchen table, discussing how they might eventually claim ownership of the house. If we can prove you've contributed enough, Rebecca whispered, she'll have to split it. Ethan nodded slowly. I just need to keep Aura calm until then. I watched the footage alone the following weekend. Then I forwarded the recording directly to my attorney. Her response came less than 15 minutes later. Keep collecting evidence. They're building your case for you. For the first time in months, I knew exactly how this story was going to end. By the 6th month of our so-called open relationship, Ethan wasn't even pretending anymore. He stayed out all night without explanations. Money disappeared from our joint account faster every week. Designer clothes, weekend getaways, restaurant bills, hotel charges. I documented every single transaction. He never noticed. He assumed I'd remain the same woman who trusted him without question. One Friday afternoon, I came home from a route a full day earlier than expected. The house was unusually quiet. Then I heard laughter coming from the living room. I walked inside. Ethan was curled up on my couch beside Lena, both of them drinking whiskey. My whiskey. The bottle my father had given me for my birthday sat half empty on the coffee table. They looked perfectly comfortable, like I was the guest. "Oh," Ethan said, forcing a smile. "You're home early." Lena looked embarrassed. Ethan didn't. He simply raised his glass. We were just relaxing. I slowly set my travel bag on the floor. "You're drinking my birthday whiskey." He shrugged. "I'll replace it." "That wasn't the point. You brought her into my house." He rolled his eyes. "The rules evolve." I almost laughed. "The rules evolve?" "It's been 6 months, Aura." "So they evolved exactly the same way your opinions about Ryan did?" Lena looked from him to me. "I think maybe I should go." "No," Ethan said, placing a hand on her arm. "She's overreacting." Overreacting. That single word erased the last trace of love I still carried. I looked around my own living room. The furniture I'd bought. The mortgage I'd paid. The photographs of vacations I'd funded. Everything suddenly felt like evidence instead of memories. I took a slow breath. "No." Ethan frowned. "No what?" "No more." He laughed nervously. "What does that mean?" "It means we're finished." His smile disappeared. "You're serious?" "I've been serious for months." "You agreed to this." "I agreed to exactly what you asked for." "You can't suddenly change your mind." "I didn't. I simply finished watching." His expression hardened. "So you're throwing away 10 years because I explored?" I looked directly into his eyes. "I'm ending 10 years because you confused loyalty with weakness." Silence. Lena quietly picked up her purse. I should leave. Neither of us stopped her. The front door closed softly behind her. Then Ethan's confidence began cracking. "You've been planning this?" "Yes." His eyes widened. "For how long?" "Since the night you asked to sleep with other women." "You manipulated me." I couldn't help smiling. "I manipulated you?" "You acted like you accepted everything." "I did." "You let me think." "I let you make your own decisions." His breathing became uneven. "You trapped me." "No, Ethan." I walked into my office and returned carrying a thick envelope. "You trapped yourself." I placed it on the coffee table. Inside were printed bank statements, receipts, screenshots, photographs, transcripts, copies of text messages, a summary of every unnecessary purchase made from our shared funds, records showing he had abandoned every household responsibility after quitting his job. Security camera stills. He flipped through the pages. His face slowly lost every ounce of color. "What?" Another envelope landed beside the first. "This one is more interesting." He opened it. His own voice filled the room as he stared at printed transcripts from the security recordings. Rebecca saying, "You just need to keep Aura calm until you figure out how to get the house." His own reply, "Once it's in both our names, it'll be easy." His hands started shaking. "You recorded us." "I protected my property." "That's illegal." "My attorney disagrees." He looked at me like he'd never seen me before. You've already talked to a lawyer. Months ago. When? The week after you asked for an open relationship. The realization hit him all at once. Every calm reaction, every quiet smile, every simple, have fun, every moment he mistook for acceptance had actually been preparation. His phone rang. Rebecca. He answered immediately. She knows. There was a pause. Then her voice became loud enough for me to hear. Don't admit anything. Too late. I already had. The next morning, my attorney filed for divorce. Because the house had been mine before our relationship, it remained separate property. The recording showed clear intent to manipulate my finances. The financial records demonstrated that Ethan had voluntarily stopped contributing while freely spending shared money. The case became surprisingly straightforward. Rebecca still tried to interfere. She marched into my driveway 3 days later, carrying a folder full of handwritten demands. Ethan deserves half the house. No. Half your retirement. No. Spousal support. No. You owe him after everything he gave you. I almost asked what exactly he'd given me besides dirty dishes and unpaid bills. Instead, I simply handed her another envelope. She frowned. What's this? The official divorce filing. She opened it. The confidence disappeared from her face with every page she read. You've listed everything. The recordings. Everything. The financial documents. Everything. She looked genuinely frightened. This isn't over. It practically is. The temporary hearing lasted less than an hour. The judge reviewed the evidence. Because Ethan had repeatedly violated the agreements he'd insisted upon, abandoned financial responsibilities, and discussed obtaining my premarital home through deceptive means, the court ordered him to move out while proceedings continued. Rebecca argued. The judge wasn't impressed. Within 2 weeks, Ethan was living in his sister's guest room. Ironically, Rebecca discovered very quickly how exhausting it was supporting someone who refused to work. They started fighting almost immediately. Meanwhile, my life became wonderfully quiet. I repainted the living room, changed the locks, donated furniture that carried too many memories. 6 months later, the divorce became final. The house remained mine. My retirement remained mine. My savings remained mine. Ethan received only a modest financial settlement before walking away. One rainy afternoon, he returned to collect the last of his belongings. He looked thinner, older. The confidence was gone. I made a mistake, he whispered. I nodded. You did. I still love you. I believed he thought he did. But love isn't something you suddenly rediscover after every backup plan collapses. We could start over. I looked around the home I'd finally reclaimed, then back at the man who once believed I'd never leave. No, Ethan. His shoulders slumped. I'm finally living the life you wanted me to explore. He frowned. What do you mean? I found peace. He lowered his head. I'm sorry. I know. I closed the door gently, not because I hated him, because I didn't feel anything anymore. A few weeks later, I ran into Ryan at the neighborhood hardware store. We grabbed coffee afterward. Nothing dramatic, nothing rushed. Just two people talking honestly. When he asked whether I was finally ready to start dating again, I smiled into my coffee. Maybe someday. For the first time in years, there was no rush to find someone else. I had already found the one person I'd almost lost. Myself.